pieces of the Beckman Centrifuge. You guys have had this one for a long time, so we're looking for the same longevity out of this guy. So what you purchase is a Bonnie J XN26. This is the newest version of the Bonnie J. The Bonnie J has been out for probably 18 or 20 years now. So this is the latest and greatest. So basically, the body's the same. It's just got some newer electronics. Gives you the options to do a few more things with your data. Put a flash drive in there that can retrieve your data if you like. That's kind of a new feature. So we're just trying to update the technology on our instrumentation. So the first thing we'll talk about is the centrifuge itself. So with the power off, you can't use the foot pedal to open the door, so the power has to be on. So the first thing we'll do is turn the power on. The power is on your right-hand side, a little below the top deck. So you'll see it's going to take maybe about a minute or so for it to boot up. It's kind of like your laptop at home or here at school. It goes through a boot up process, and it takes a little bit of time. So just be patient.
So while we're waiting, can I ask a question? This is kind of a discussion we have. These things get used on and off all day long. Is it better to leave it on and with the lid down, or off and the lid up?
Okay, so if you're going to do 4-degree runs all day, leave it on with the lid closed. That way with the lid closed, it'll maintain whatever set temperature you have selected. Since the boot up process takes a minute or so every time, I wouldn't turn it off, power back on, turn it back off. I just leave it on all day.
So when it's on, it should be shut.
Yes, yeah, shut. That way it'll maintain the temperature that you have it set for.
And less condensation.
Right. Yeah. If you have the door open, okay. So obviously the door has to be closed for the compressor to be on. But yeah, if you have a cold chamber and you have the door open, it's just going to melt. You're going to have a bunch of water in there. So
I think we can all agree to keep it on and the door shut.
Power on. Yeah. Power on with the door shut. Okay. So what I was mentioning about the foot pedal. So that's been around for a while, but on the old Bonnie J's, you used to have to pull a handle here. So if you had a rotor in your hand to open the door, it was kind of cumbersome. So nice thing is you can use your foot. So you got the door, and you'll notice that it has two eye bolts, which are engaged to door latches. So when you close the door, just make sure you close it in the middle of the door when you're closing. Otherwise, if you close here or over here, that one or the other might not latch. So all you would do is just open it up and then reclose it. Okay, so the first thing we'll talk about is loading a rotor. So you have 4 rotors, and all the models and maximum speeds are noted on the lid. You have a 14,000 RPM rotor, you have a 25,000 RPM rotor, you have a 6-liter rotor in the lab that goes up to 8,000, and then you have a swing bucket rotor that spins up to 5,200. So all the rotors, it's important to load the same. So on this particular rotor, you see the 4 pins that are on top. What you want to do is inside the chamber here on the drive spindle, there's 2 peaks, and you just want to make sure that one of those pins engages between the 2 peaks. Here, take a picture of that. See the 4 silver pins? Yeah. So one of those, when you put it down on there, you just want to make sure that one of the pins is in between the 2 peaks. This one's not a difficult one because there's 4 pins. So one of the 4 will engage those 2 peaks. On this particular rotor, there's only 2 pins. And you see the 2 arrows on there. Those are telling you where the drive pins are. So if you look underneath, you see the pins across from each other. That's where the arrows are telling you where the pins are. So if you want, why don't you just take a quick look inside the chamber. So you see how this is the drive spindle and it has the 2 peaks right here? You want to make sure that one of those pins is in between the 2 peaks. Somebody might have done a different run prior to that, so just a couple of things to keep in mind. Okay, so this is real-time data, so it's basically just telling you speed compared to time, what we're doing temperature-wise. I don't know how you would use that in your, basically all you're doing is pelleting something or separating something, so it just gives you some fancy illustration to show you what your sample speeds and temperature, I guess.
We'll see what option says.
Auto scroll, manual scroll. Okay, that just basically changes your graph size. Okay, so we're just back to the run history. This is what you've done previously, and this is what your run's doing right now. Graph. Historical. Oh, okay. I guess then it kind of gives you an average of all your runs over time. So it gives you, some more bells and whistles than you typically got with the, this is a centrifuge with inner start. Just gives you some more things to play with. Okay, so we got 2 minutes left. We're down to 12 degrees. And at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and stop just for time purposes. So one comment on rotors. If you guys are going to, is it typically 4 degrees that you spin at?
Somebody can also ambient.
Okay, 20. Okay, so just know that if you have a room temperature chamber and you have a room temperature rotor, and you want that rotor to be at 4 degrees, it cools like 2 to 4 degrees per hour. I mean, you got a big hunk of metal here, plus it's going at 25,000. So if you want this rotor to be at 4 degrees, best that you put it in a cold room. Don't rely on this thing to cool it. I mean, you can, but just know that this rotor's not going to be 4 degrees for 4 to 5 to 6 hours. So just keep that in mind. So while we're waiting for this thing to come to a stop, so on the ones that have a rotor tie-down lid, you'll notice that there's a couple of O-rings, one on the lid and one in the rotor hub area. So it's important to put a little bit of vacuum grease on that from time to time. You do it once a year, you're more than anybody ever does. Once a quarter, a couple times a year, just if you guys have some old SOP as far as maintenance on the instrument, that'd be a good time to put some grease on.
I think at the beginning or end of each semester.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
At the end of each semester and then at the end of each summer, every summer. So you would just come in and then put that out of your calendar and clean it. And
right. That way you start fresh the next time. Okay, so this is their lid over this particular one. So it's just a little dab. You don't want to put a ton on there because people tend to over-grease, and grease attracts dust and dirt. That's not a good thing. So when you put the lid on or the O-ring back on, you want to stretch the O-ring and work it around, as opposed to a lot of people will try to roll the O-ring on. But when you roll the O-ring on, when it starts centrifuging, it wants to roll back in the other direction, and your O-ring's going to come off. So again, when you put the O-ring on, so when you put the O-ring on, just stretch it around the outside so that you're not rolling it up along the edge. Does that make sense? Okay, so the other thing is, anytime that you have metal on metal, you have metal threads threading into metal spindle, you just want to put a little bit of spin coat lubricant on the threads, both on the threads and then on the containment portion of the rotor. So that's one other thing to talk about on this rotor. On this rotor, this is a biosafety containment type rotor. So you'll notice that when you put the rotor lid on, there's two handles. There's the tie-down handle, and then there's the handle that ties it to the rotor. So basically, if any nasty stuff is in here and the tube leaks or collapses, it'll stay within the rotor. So the important thing is to put the rotor lid on first, and then when you put it in the chamber, then you tie the lid down. So the important thing to remember is don't think this knob here is tying the rotor to the centrifuge. It's only putting the lid on the rotor. So probably the same time frame as the O-rings, maybe at the end of the semester. Again, nobody ever does it. You know, if the instruments do preventive maintenance, that's something I always do. Okay, so runs come to a stop. You open the door. You got a nice frosty chamber. Take your tubes out, or if you're going to do a different spin, put a different rotor in. One thing I forgot to mention. When the rotor's spinning, the door is locked and it won't allow you access into the centrifuge. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Well, there's no magic mystery. Which exists in one that override. And override.
Oh. Yeah, on the old style, you used to be able to put like a paper clip in the hole and open the door while it was running. Okay, so just give me a second. I am going to get the swing bucket.
The next training is for the students. It's going to be one really I think the guy that means okay.
So this is the swing bucket rotor I was mentioning. Remember, I told you you can't see the pins from the top with the handles, the rotor tie down handles there. So what I've learned is that the pins run parallel to the Beckman bolter. So if you look at the inside, you can see the pins that are across this way. They run the same way as the Beckman. So as long as you line one of those two pins with the Beckman, you'll know that you've engaged the two peaks on the drive spindle. So the important thing about this one is it comes with 4 buckets. And it's important always to run all 4 buckets. Even if you're only going to run, samples across from each other, you still have to run all 4 buckets. You start taking buckets out, and then you might start having some issues with imbalance. So make sure you have all buckets in there. So you'll notice these two. So just make sure, they're only a couple of grams off, but just make sure you get the buckets that are matched across from each other. Because they have a stamp on it. So each bucket has a weight on there. Just make sure you have the same weight across from each other.
You show the camera.
Oh. Right. Yeah. And then even on the bucket, it tells you the max RPM 5,300.
So when you tighten any of these things, it's hand tight.
Yeah, hand tight. Snug. I say snug, but I think the same because everybody has like a little different hand strength. So it doesn't have to be wrenched on there. It just has to be secured. Okay, so we have all 4 buckets. The nice thing about this rotor is you have a ton of different options for spinning adapters. So that's probably like 15 mil there, 50 mil, 250 mil, a liter. There's a lot of different options for tube size to spin. So just be sure that you have 2 blue adapters across from each other. You have 2 black adapters across. Just make sure you're using the right adapters across from each other. No, you can. Yeah. Like a Sharpie marker or something like that. That's fine. Yeah.
Nice and big.
Yeah, well, you don't have a lot of. I guess you can put it on the edge. Yeah, got a nice flat spot on the edge. Yeah. Okay, so again, close the door after I've verified it's tight. So we hit speed. We hit select rotor. This is a JS 5.3. We hit OK. We tell it how fast we're going to go. So say I want to go 6,000. It says nope, you can only go 5,300. Oops. Time, temp, start. So I just wanted to get a run started again so I could hit the foot pedal. You can see that the door is not going to open up on us. Well, actually, once you get there's an interlock right here with a cable that runs through it that's hooked to the foot pedal, and then a locking arm comes across so that that cable can't come back up. Okay, so we'll let that one run, and we might as well bring in that other rotor as well, the big one.
Do you need help?
No, I got it. 8.100. It has 6 1 liter canisters, so you can spin a lot of people use this to spin down fermentation and stuff. So you'll notice it's got a windshield, and then bring in the top. It's got a center yoke, and then it has these composite canisters which you can take out. So basically, it's a few different components just to reduce the weight. If you had a whole rotor made out of this stuff, this thing would weigh 70 pounds, something like that. So I mean, it's already kind of challenging to lift it up already. It probably weighs at least 40 pounds. So the important thing about this guy is that if you're going to run 2 samples or 4 samples, you still have to have all 8 canisters in there. You start taking canisters out, maybe some imbalance issues. You might even have some rotor ID issues if you start taking, because it looks at inertia and windage. Oops, sorry. So
you mean just those Kevlar, not the inserts?
Yeah, no, not that. Just
make that clear.
Yeah,
for
all
everybody.
6 of these have to be in there. Canister. So the nice thing about this is if you're doing your sample prep someplace, you can take the canister with you, in the bottle, and do your sample prep and then bring them back to the center. Just be cautious because they don't give you much of a flat area, so they're kind of wobbly. So just be careful with that.
Do they have to be matched by weight like the ones in the swing bucket?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think they stamp. Yeah, they don't stamp a weight on there. Yes, they should be pretty similar. Okay, so obviously this spins 1 liter. There's no adapters to spin smaller quantities for this. It's 1 liter or nothing. So the important thing on this one is.
So we bought some adapters to fit into there.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, we bought some.
Oh, okay. That might be new because I thought it was just a 1 liter rotor. So the important thing is it says max fill line. You have to fill these to always. It doesn't matter if you're using polycarbonate, polypropylene. Always fill the 1 liter, 1,000 milliliter line. And each bottle has its stamp.
You mean you have to fill the waste 1,000?
Yeah.
500?
Yeah, no, never.
And then how close do they have to be balanced going across?
Okay, so you're spinning 6 liters of sample. I'd be right on.
We need a number, plus or minus 1 gram.
I'm not going to give you a
0.5
plus or minus number. No.
They need to be the same.
Yeah, they need to be the same.
Okay.
Okay, only because you got 6 liters and you start varying across from each other a couple of liters. That you're running into 8, 10, 12. Not liters, but mils or grams. And this thing goes 8,000 RPM. So okay, so the drive contain has a little bit of imbalance. Okay, yeah. I was just going to say all those accumulated imbalances are going to lead to a bent drive spin.
But we can do 2 1-liter bottles and leave the other 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Or do 4, or you can do 3.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Yeah,
2,
try to
4 or 6.
Yeah,
We're not
do
doing
2,
this
4, or
next
6.
3. That's sorry. I've seen that go bad.
Okay.
Because people don't recognize symmetry that way.
Right. Yeah, when you
2, 4, or 6.
Right. You write that into your SOP.
Dr. Bell or any of the other professors who want to do it on their own, but I want to see it do 3.
Okay. So I guess you were right.
And
Okay, so
I believe this goes in there if you want even smaller.
even smaller. Okay. You know what? I have seen these before, but I don't see too many people use them. Okay, so yeah, you have the option to go probably like 250 mils and then maybe about 100 mils, something like that.
I think that's 500 and 250.
Oh, okay, right. So, all right, that makes it better. Makes it more versatile. And then just make sure that you put the top on. I don't think it threads. I think it just the O-rings keep it on there.
Okay, so
Great. It's great to find somebody.
right. What's that?
It's great to find somebody. So just to clarify, so
Yeah,
as long as
but
all 6
I'm
of
hoping
these
that
are in,
we'll
but if
get
you
some
only want to
buckets
spend
here.
2 bottles.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have 6 of these.
Right. Yeah, you might not have that much sample to spin.
So you can put
so-
2 of these as long as that's
Right. Okay, so when you're gonna spin the 1 liter bottles, any type of 1 liter bottles, you always have to have a cap. The cap has O-rings, both on the outside and one on the top. Then you have a cap that holds that. I guess that's called a plug underneath. So you have the actual screw cap. You just put it in any one of these triangles. See the triangle portions? You just put them in, and then this is it's called a vise. It just kind of helps you, and I don't know if there's scribe marks or, anyway, you just want to turn it until it's tight. So basically, you're gonna, you're tightening it so that no liquid can leak out. And then also, you're probably going to need the handle as well for afterwards, because after centrifuging, and this instrument does pull a half atmosphere of vacuum, that lid's going to be really tight on there. So you're definitely going to need that just to loosen the cap. And then it's just the opposite.
Can we order extra of those? Because I just have a feeling that
These?
it might just.
You know what? I think I have a couple in my car. I'll leave them. I'll leave them with you.
We'll probably want some more O-rings too.
Yeah. So, exactly. These are autoclavable in case you're spinning something that's kind of nasty.
No bacteria, so that's a sterilized bacteria.
Yeah, you can.
Do you rinse them with bleach or?
I wouldn't use bleach. Bleach is pretty harsh. You're dealing with plastic here, unless you're dilute the bleach. We can look through the manual, and then there's a cold sterilization process that they recommend something. I can't remember what it is.
Just to clean it after the practice.
Right. So you're with these thicker opaque tubes or bottles, these are reusable. So you would use that same cold sterilization process. But just know, especially if they're going between hot and cold, and you're centrifuging them, this is a piece of plastic. So you gotta look at these things periodically because they don't last forever, right? So just want to look across the bottom. You might start seeing little fine hairline cracks. Just look for any. You might even see where the bottom is starting to push out and create like a bubble. So you just want to eyeball these things, pretty regularly. And then if you start seeing signs of maybe discoloration, maybe you want to get rid of them and get some new ones.
So which part do you see is autoclavable?
Everything's autoclavable, yeah. And we can go through the rotor manual for each rotor. Talks about
We want to wear and tear and limitations to each rotor.
right, which is all spelled out in
Do like you to tell us.
yeah.
You said that every user checks buttons, right?
Oh, I would. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be the one that had some rotor mishaps as I didn't look at the down the rotor or the ball. Okay, so once we have all our first the rotor's going to be in here because you don't want to put 6 liters and then put it in there because that's going to be really heavy. So it has the same drive pins in the middle, 2 across from each other. So same loading procedure with this. You want to put one of the 2 drive pins in between the 2 peaks on the drive spindle. And again, tie the rotor down. So basically, this acts as the device that attaches the rotor to the spindle, and it also acts as a windshield. Because if you were to be able to attach it without the windshield, you're creating a lot of wind here. You might not be able to reach your set speed. You might not be able to reach your temperature. So it acts as a windshield to keep everything contained and keep it nice and smooth, and aerodynamic, so to speak.
if somehow you're putting the rotor in and you miss that pin and you put it in the wrong way, will it something tell you?
Nope. Nope.
And you'll still be able to spin the lid on even if it's not set properly?
Yes. So what I have seen in the past is you have the potential to be able to put one of those two pins over on the top of the peak, right? Okay, so if you don't get one of the pins in here, you have the potential to put one of the pins up here. So when you tighten it, it feels like it's tightening. So when you go to hit start and it starts spinning, you'll hear you'll hear a noise that's not normal. And then when you go to stop it and you open it up and you'll find that you can tighten the lid a little bit more. So what's happened is that pin has dropped and then the threads of the rotor tie down aren't all the way down. Then you would tighten it a little bit more. So when you're first starting to use these things, just get real familiar with how to load the rotor and make, how it feels when you put the pin down between the two peaks. You get a feel for it and what's right and what's wrong.
Be
So
extra careful.
yeah, just and take your time. Time's the biggest. I don't know what I'm trying to say. People are in such a hurry; they don't really pay attention to what they're doing, and that's the biggest culprit for errors. It's just people hurrying through, maybe thinking somebody did something previously and they didn't, and just like me, just double check that you got it tied down, make sure everything's in there right, make sure your samples are loaded. It doesn't have to be. I know everybody's used to getting information instantly these days, but with this, if you're sloppy, if you're not paying attention, it could be real costly. So, okay. So I think that pretty much covers just the instrument usage. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so we can move on to like more specific questions
About the rotors. Can you talk us about the differences between the rotors, their limitations, the kind of tubes that go in there, and then how to clean and then store upside down, dry.
Right. Okay, yeah, we can talk about that. Okay, so basically the only limitations are you're limited on your speed. Well, limited on your speed and your capacity. So your 2550 goes 25,000 RPMs. It spins a 50 mil round bottom tube. So cleaning, we sell a cleaning solution. I think it's called 555. Basically, it's just a mild detergent. You don't want anything too high in the pH or too low in the pH. You want something right in the middle. And you want a brush to clean out the cavities, but you want something with like a Teflon end on the cavities. I mean on the brush. You don't want a metal end on the brush because then you're gonna. This has a real thin coating of anodize. So you don't want a metal brush because that's going to score the anodize and it's going to open up to the bare aluminum underneath. So yeah, you want a brush with a Teflon or plastic end. Yeah, I think that rotor cleaning kit, the rotor cleaning solution comes with a couple of brushes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would clean the cavities with mild detergent, rinse it in water, and then just store it upside down so that let it air dry with the water dripping out of it.
Now there's a difference. Those two rotors look a lot the same, and I know students might get confused. Can you talk about the differences between this rotor and that rotor?
Okay, so I believe they spin the same size tubes, but we're limited on 8 tubes capacity for this, whereas this one will spin up to 16 tubes. Yeah, this one goes 25,000 RPMs. This one goes 14,000 RPMs.
That fits the Alpha tube, right? Arca tubes.
Yeah. This is a brand new rotor I'm not real familiar with. No, this is I don't know if that's conical or not. So again, this one's going to be kind of dicey because This one's going to be a little harder to load symmetrically because you have more options. You know, you have more
I think that
holes.
one's conical.
That one's conical.
I'm like
Okay.
90% sure that's conical.
Okay, so you can spin round bottoms in this one up to 25,000, or you can spin conical up to 14,000. So that would be the difference on that one.
So-
if you have Falcon sticks that are scored from that.
Right. Okay, so which leads me to my next comment is, even okay, so you need to figure out what RCF you're spinning at, because some tubes will say they're rated for a certain speed, but they may not be for the same RCF. So make sure whatever you're going to use non-Beckman tubes, make sure the RCF is correct.
So basically what we're saying here is you have, this is a tube that says ultra high performance. Only these tubes can handle the higher RCF, the speeds. Your normal average everyday Falcon tube cannot go that high. And these shouldn't be spun higher than 5,000 times G.
Okay.
RCF of more than 5,000. These can go higher, these are limited. We're going to put a big sign up there. These are for the conical tubes, so these are fitting just these tubes. You cannot put these tubes. I'm taking over, I'm sorry.
No, good.
These
Yeah.
do not fit and these will not.
Yeah, you
work.
wouldn't be able to tie the lid down if it's sitting too high.
Okay, but even if they did fit, you can't use them. Do not use round in these because it's got a conical bottom and that'll misshape the tube and stress and cause the tube to fail. Round here, conical here. We bought that specifically for the conical tubes.
And I think that's why they came out with this to address the conical instead of having to use some kind of adapter.
Yeah, I'm not sure what, okay, and then we have these, and then these I think are just for the screw bucket.
These are for this one here.
Oh, okay.
And then let's go in there.
Yeah. So it just this is what it looks like on the inside of the cavity is that bottom piece. And you can start putting smaller, 15 mil tubes in there. So it just gives you some more options as far as tube size.
Is there a way that we could artificially limit the RCF on that rotor? So we could set this rotor to spin no faster than these tubes and only no?
No. It's going to allow you to input 500 to 14,000. There isn't any way to limit it.
We can't make it.
You can't do an override.
We can
Yeah.
sort of script to put in there and load that instead.
That would be simply really
Yeah, see, but when you input a rotor, all it's asking for is the serial number.
But yeah.
If you-
And we can't make up the serial.
Well, you can make up a serial number, sure, but the serial number is not going to. It's still going to know that it's a 14,000 RPM rotor.
Okay, there's a script behind it. There's a script. And it inputs it.
There's got to be a governor. There's what we want to see. Maybe you can help us look, find out if there's a governor, right? Some, like she said, something we can program and it says, I don't care if it's in the no more than this, right?
So less than 14,000.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
want
think
to
there's
load
any
the
way to do
accelerator.
that.
All right. Well, we'll
Not
put up
that
a
I
big
know.
sign, and we'll put. Sharon's going to make a nice sign, and she's going to put the tubes up there. No more than this, unless you talk to your people. We'll come up with something we can all agree on. But that will give us a lot of flexibility. For
Yeah,
tasks and
absolutely.
everything else.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen this rotor in the field, so I didn't know that it had that much capability, so that's nice. I think we'll sell a lot of those rotors. Okay, so we've already talked about this rotor. All 6 buckets are canisters, 6 liters, or you can reduce to 500 or 250. The weighing on this one is the most important because you're talking about a lot of volume. So get it right on. Don't be sloppy.
But we also have with the spinning bucket, we can do 250, 500, 8,000 with the lower G.
Right.
With the swinging bucket, which will take down yeast cells, bacteria cells, a lot of what we need. This is only for the really high capacity.
Right.
Occasionally uses when we're doing the big 6 liters. Normally we're doing 500, 250 mils, then it's not so tricky.
Right. Yeah, if you have a lot of stuff to spin down, in a day or two, then use this. But if you're just doing small quantities from time to time, do that 500.
Less people balance on that and make it what it's at.
Right.
this is not one you're going to use on a regular basis. If you're doing down large volumes, unless your boss wants to use these, you have other sizes with the swinging bucket that'll spin down most of your bacteria, yeast, and things like this. So only real large volumes on a special occasion when you do 60. Yeah. So then that would work great for you, right? Or depending upon if you do floor, right? You still do this. You just gotta be careful. I mean, I've used this roller many years without a problem.
These guys fit.
No, I think those would be too tall. Yeah, that's gonna be.
We have other
Yeah, that
bottles.
one has a
We have
specific
different
model.
bottles for these.
Right. We have some bottles for every insert we got.
Right. Okay, so that's all I had to say about the rotors. I mean, just specific questions about the rotors.
Can we go look at some of the adapters?
Sure. Swing buckets, those square blue buckets. So you can see you got a whole different bunch of options for. So these are kind of dicey because depending on how many tubes, just getting it symmetrical is might be a little tough. You just have to look at, think about what you're doing. It'd be easy to imbalance these if you're, unless you just use a whole row. You know what I mean about symmetrical, having them across from each other, just the same opposite side as, these two sides. I mean, obviously these will be easy because it's only one. These are a little bit easier because I think it gives you like 8 options. So just be careful when you're loading your tubes that they're symmetrical across from each other. This is a rack for your 1 liter bottles. So you might do your sample prep in here. That way they're not tipping over. And you have a spatula for after you've centrifuged and you have your pellet down in the bottom of the bottle. This is a way to get your pellet out. These were the adapters for your the 1 liter canisters. Spin smaller quantities. Same adapter that these fit into. These are extra O-rings for the caps on the enclosures over the top of your 1 liter bottles. You got a bunch of those. I think this was for the JA14. Was these for the JA, those little black inserts?
The conical ones.
Right,
yes.
right. So more inserts for your JA14.
Yeah, we have round bottom ones too.
Right.
So these are not from the swing bucket, right? Or those?
Yeah, no. And the only thing that's for the swing bucket are just right
And
here.
these are bottles for.
Oh, that.
Are those the bottles that go in there? Should go. That's probably the 500 for the insert.
Oh, yeah.
Because these ones look conical on the bottom. Yeah, those are for the ones for corning. Do you have
Yeah,
any
those-
of those?
I don't know, did we get those?
Bottles? We didn't know the bottles. But conical.
We'll have to get them from Corning. So here's some other things. So for that conical, that larger head, centrifuge we had, remember they're conical on the bottom. So these are to the inserts, and it makes it real obvious here. There are 2 kinds of inserts we have, and you got to pay attention. There's one that's round, that fits this size tube. So when you're spinning down lysates or something from smaller preps, you don't want to use the round in the V shape because that'll cause stress at the bottom, and it won't fit. So that's kind of nice. But this one fits in there, and then you can fit a smaller volume, a 10 to 15 mil volume tube in there into that. And this one is the V shape, so that fits the 15 mil Falcon type tubes. Or we also have a number of, nope, that's not for this one, that's for these. Okay, so that fits these tubes here. And if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Don't use it, all right? And lastly, we do have some additional inserts that we purchased. Although we should limit these to the PIs and not just let these free range with the students. Because these are the conical size that will fit in as adapters into that bigger head. And so you can have a round 50 mil tube in there. But since we have the 2 heads, we should probably want to set this aside and let the PIs know for special reasons, but not just general student use because they will get abused.
Well, those tubes, they'll put them in there and leave them in there and
And
forget they're in there.
That's why I said these are for
Right,
the PI
yeah.
only, right? So, but there is, we have all these tubes here. We have Also, 96 volt plate adapters for these, so you can spin them in there. There's a little rubber insert that you put on this, and then you put your plates on top of this, balance across each other's well for those. These bigger ones, they all require a special set of tubes. We'll get some ordered from Corning. They're reusable or disposable depending upon how your needs are for chemical stability. But there's 4 different sizes. And then there's also the round ones. So these fit your traditional round bottles. So we have some, the 500s and 250s that fit. You have to look in the bottom because you notice these are rounded. So these will fit your normal 250 ml bottles. Like, grab that one out. Like that'll grab and fit that one just fine. So you don't need an adapter for this one. But this one, it won't fit. But even if it did, it's a conical tube in the bottom, so you don't want to put flat rounded on a conical base, right? And this is. Okay, we don't have one for these. We don't have an adapter for these. But that's the other thing I want to say is, for any of these centrifuges, it'll fit, right? You spin like this, it's going to warp the plastic and make it fail, and then hide in somewhere really, really South Mexico. All right, we can't have that. So if it doesn't fit nice and tight, even if it is the right size tube, but it's not fitting because it's warped, you have to use a different tube. Take the time, do it right. Talk to your PI, talk to Miss Ferguson. She'll help you out. I'm sorry I took over.
No, you're good. You're
But
good.
we know where things go wrong, so we want to make sure it's
Right.
for the camera. Anything else? Carry feeding the rotors.
So that covers. So just again, maintenance on the rotors. Mild detergent, rinse with water, set them up, air dry. After we're finished here, we can talk about the sterilization of the bottles, but I have to look at that because I don't remember what they recommend.